Taylor lived in a world without structure, without guidance, and without anyone telling them what to do next. At first, it felt like freedom, the kind people dream about. No alarms, no expectations, no one watching or judging. But slowly, that freedom began to feel like a heavy silence, the kind that fills a room so completely it becomes impossible to ignore. Days passed without purpose, blending into each other until time itself felt meaningless. Taylor would wake up with vague intentions: today I'll change, today I'll do something important, but those thoughts faded as quickly as they came. Hours slipped away in overthinking, in imagining a better life but never stepping into it. It wasn't that Taylor didn't want to succeed, it was that something inside kept holding them back, something invisible yet incredibly powerful. That something wasn't obvious at first. Taylor blamed everything else: the lack of opportunities, the environment, the absence of direction. It was easier that way. Blaming the outside world gave temporary relief, like placing a bandage over something much deeper. But the truth had a way of creeping in during quiet moments. Late at night, when everything was still, Taylor would feel it, the weight of unfulfilled potential. A quiet voice would whisper, "You could be more than this." And instead of feeling inspired, Taylor felt uncomfortable, almost afraid. Because deep down, Taylor knew that the only thing standing in the way was themselves. The mind became a battlefield. On one side, there was the version of Taylor who dreamed, who wanted to grow, to achieve, to break free from this endless cycle. On the other side, there was fear, disguised as logic. What if you fail? What if you're not good enough? What if you try and nothing changes? These thoughts didn't shout, they whispered, subtly convincing Taylor to stay where it was safe. And safety, Taylor realized, was the most dangerous place of all. Because nothing grows there. Every time Taylor tried to take a step forward, that inner voice grew louder. It reminded Taylor of past failures, of unfinished plans, of moments where things didn't work out. Slowly, doubt became a habit. Not trying felt easier than risking failure. Avoiding action felt safer than facing the possibility of disappointment. And without realizing it, Taylor built invisible walls, walls made of excuses, hesitation, and fear. From the outside, nothing seemed wrong. But inside, Taylor felt trapped. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky turned into shades of fading gold and deep blue, Taylor sat alone, staring into the distance. For once, there were no distractions, no noise to escape into. Just thoughts. Raw, unfiltered thoughts. And that's when it happened, the moment that would quietly change everything. A realization, simple yet heavy: no one is stopping me. The words felt almost shocking. If no one else was responsible, then that meant the responsibility was Taylor's. At first, Taylor resisted the idea. It was uncomfortable, even painful, to accept. Because if the problem was internal, then there were no more excuses. No one to blame. No easy way out. But as difficult as it was, there was also something strangely empowering about it. Because if Taylor was the problem, then Taylor could also be the solution. That night, Taylor didn't make a dramatic promise or a grand plan. There was no sudden burst of motivation or unrealistic goal setting. Instead, there was a quiet decision, a small shift in perspective. I will try. Not perfectly. Not fearlessly. Just try. It seemed insignificant, but it was the first real step forward. The next day, the battle began again. The same thoughts returned, the same doubts tried to take control. But this time, Taylor noticed them. Instead of automatically believing them, Taylor questioned them. Is this true, or is this just fear talking? That simple question changed everything. For the first time, Taylor saw those thoughts for what they were, not facts, but patterns. Patterns that had been repeated for so long they felt real. Taking action still felt uncomfortable. Even the smallest steps required effort. But with each action, something shifted. It wasn't a dramatic transformation, it was subtle, almost unnoticeable at first. But it was real. And for the first time in a long time, Taylor felt a sense of control, however small it might be. Taylor began to understand that the biggest battle wasn't about the world outside. It was about mastering the world within. And that battle required patience, awareness, and courage. It wasn't about eliminating fear completely, that wasn't possible. It was about learning to move forward despite it. Slowly, Taylor realized something powerful: the voice that once felt like an enemy didn't have to control everything. It could be challenged. It could be weakened. And one day, it could even be silenced. But for now, the journey had just begun. Taylor woke up the next morning with a quiet determination that felt unfamiliar. It was not loud or dramatic, but it was steady, like the first glimmer of sunlight piercing through a long night of darkness. The challenges of yesterday had not vanished, and the doubts that lingered in the corners of the mind were still there, waiting to pull Taylor back into old patterns. But today felt different. Today, Taylor understood that moving forward was not about waiting to feel ready, it was about taking action even when fear was present. And that understanding, subtle as it seemed, was the first real step toward breaking free from the chains that had held Taylor for so long. The first challenge was the mind itself. The internal dialogue that had once controlled every thought now became something Taylor actively observed. Every morning, the same doubts tried to rise: "You're not ready. You'll fail. Why even bother?" But Taylor no longer listened without question. Instead, these thoughts were examined, named, and faced. Taylor realized that fear was just a signal, not a sentence. It meant the task was important, it meant growth was possible, it meant courage was required. And so, instead of hiding, Taylor started to respond. Small steps first: writing a page of ideas, completing a simple task, organizing thoughts. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real progress. Days began to accumulate into patterns. Taylor learned that success wasn't sudden, it was incremental, built from consistent effort, from showing up every day, from proving to oneself repeatedly that change was possible. Some mornings were easier, when motivation aligned with action, when Taylor felt energetic and inspired. Other mornings were battles, when doubts screamed louder than hope, when every movement felt heavy, when the temptation to stay in bed and retreat into comfort was overwhelming. But through it all, Taylor remembered the quiet promise made to oneself, the promise to try, even when it was hard. And that promise became the guiding light. Taylor began to experiment with discipline in small, tangible ways. There were no classrooms, no schedules, no rules, so Taylor created them. Each morning started with a list of achievable goals, not grand visions, but concrete, measurable steps. Writing for 30 minutes, organizing tasks, planning the day, reflecting on progress in the evening. At first, it was difficult. The mind rebelled. Old habits whispered, "This is unnecessary. You don't need to do this." But gradually, the repetition built a new pattern. Discipline became a muscle, growing stronger with each consistent effort, and Taylor began to notice the power of structure. Structure was not restriction, it was freedom. It allowed Taylor to focus energy, to channel creativity, to take control of life rather than be controlled by chaos. Alongside discipline, Taylor began confronting fear in all its forms. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of taking risks, all had been excuses for years. Now, they were challenges to overcome. Taylor started small, taking actions that felt uncomfortable but manageable. Speaking thoughts aloud, expressing ideas that once stayed hidden, trying new activities, pushing personal boundaries in subtle ways. Each small act of courage was a victory. Each time fear was acknowledged and acted against, its power diminished. Taylor learned that fear was not the enemy, it was the signal that growth was happening. Fear was a compass pointing to the areas that mattered most, but the journey was not linear. There were setbacks, moments of self-doubt, days when old habits crept back in like shadows. On those days, Taylor felt frustration, anger, and even despair. The voice that once whispered insecurity now roared in protest. "You've failed before. You'll fail again. Why even try?" And yet, Taylor learned to respond differently. Instead of accepting the narrative, Taylor questioned it. What is the truth? Is this a fact or just fear talking? Slowly, this questioning became a habit, and with it came clarity. Setbacks were no longer proof of failure, they were lessons, evidence that progress required trial, error, and persistence. Taylor also discovered the importance of self-reflection. Each evening became a time to review actions, thoughts, and emotions. What had worked today? Where had hesitation appeared? How could tomorrow be approached differently? Reflection was not about judgment, it was about understanding patterns and making conscious adjustments. Taylor began noticing growth that had been invisible before, a reduction in procrastination, increased confidence, improved focus, and a growing sense of inner calm. Even mistakes became valuable, they were data points guiding the journey forward. With time, Taylor's confidence began to shift from fragile hope to quiet assurance. It was no longer about feeling invincible, because invincibility was a myth. It was about knowing that even when failure happened, recovery was possible, and persistence mattered more than perfection. This understanding created a resilience that Taylor had never experienced before. Challenges that once seemed insurmountable now appeared as opportunities to test strength, courage, and determination. Taylor realized that life's true battles were not external but internal, and winning these battles required consistent action, awareness, and self-belief. Gradually, Taylor started exploring passions and interests that had once been abandoned. Writing returned, not as a chore or expectation, but as a form of expression and growth. Ideas flowed more freely because fear no longer silenced them. Taylor began setting personal projects, testing limits, creating plans, and following them through. Each completed task reinforced the message that action led to progress, that persistence produced results, and that self-belief was built through evidence, not empty motivation. Taylor's perspective on failure also transformed. In the past, failure had been a verdict, a label applied permanently. Now, it became a teacher, a mirror reflecting what needed improvement. Every failed attempt was examined, understood, and applied. Taylor realized that success was never the absence of failure, it was the ability to rise repeatedly, to learn continuously, and to move forward despite fear. Relationships and interactions also shifted. Taylor noticed that confidence was contagious, not arrogance, but self-assurance. People responded to consistency, courage, and action. Opportunities began appearing, not because the world had changed, but because Taylor's perspective had. What was once intimidating now seemed approachable because Taylor had proven internally that fear could be faced and overcome. Every challenge faced, every fear confronted, reinforced the truth: Taylor was no longer a prisoner of doubt. Taylor was learning to master the mind itself. Perhaps the most profound realization came quietly, during moments of stillness. Taylor understood that life would never be completely predictable, and circumstances would always throw challenges. But the internal enemy, the voice of doubt, hesitation, and fear, could be managed, confronted, and even transformed. Taylor had the power to shape the narrative of life by controlling responses, choosing action, and refusing to obey fear. The journey was ongoing, with no final destination, but Taylor had claimed something far more valuable: the ability to continue, regardless of obstacles. And so, Taylor pressed on. Days of small victories, setbacks, reflection, and action became the rhythm of life. Each step forward was a testament to resilience, courage, and self-mastery. Taylor began to see progress not in external validation, but in internal growth. Thoughts that once paralyzed now fueled action. Fear became a guide, not a prison. Doubt became a signal, not a sentence. And in the quiet moments, Taylor realized the most powerful truth: the enemy within could be faced, challenged, and overcome, if only one refused to surrender. By the end of months of effort, Taylor was no longer the same person who once hesitated at every opportunity. Courage had replaced fear, discipline had replaced procrastination, and self-belief had replaced doubt. Life was not perfect, there were still challenges, still moments of hesitation, but Taylor had discovered something far more important: the ability to rise, to act, and to continue, no matter the circumstances. Taylor had broken the chains, not through luck or external guidance, but through relentless self-awareness, deliberate action, and the refusal to be defeated by the mind itself. Taylor's transformation wasn't sudden, it was built quietly through small, consistent choices to act despite fear. Day by day, discipline replaced the need for motivation, and action became a habit rather than a struggle. The world around Taylor hadn't changed, the same streets, the same routines, but everything felt different because perspective had shifted. Challenges that once seemed overwhelming were now seen as opportunities to grow, to test strength, and to move forward. When moments of doubt appeared, Taylor no longer waited to feel confident. Instead, action came first, and confidence followed. One defining moment proved this truth. Faced with an intimidating opportunity, the inner voice returned with fear and hesitation, but this time Taylor didn't obey. Fear was acknowledged but ignored, and step by step, progress was made. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and that made it powerful. That moment became a turning point. Taylor realized that life isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to act in spite of it. From there, everything began to expand. Goals grew bigger, risks felt necessary, and limitations started to break. The understanding became clear, the real barriers were never outside, they were always internal. Even when failures happened, Taylor's response had changed. Instead of falling into long periods of doubt and stagnation, there was reflection, adjustment, and immediate action. Every setback became a lesson, every mistake a step forward. Over time, this built something stronger than temporary confidence. It built self-trust, a deep belief that no matter what happened, Taylor could handle it and keep moving. As this mindset strengthened, life itself began to shift. Opportunities appeared not by luck, but because Taylor was ready to face them. Confidence became natural, not forced, and fear lost its power, fading into background noise. Growth became a continuous process, daily reflection, intentional action, and constant improvement. Taylor came to understand a powerful truth: the greatest enemy had always been within, but so was the greatest strength. By mastering the mind, choosing discipline over comfort, and acting consistently despite fear, Taylor became unstoppable, not because life became easy, but because nothing internal could hold them back anymore.